I can find my hook. Find my hook. There. I'll give it just a minute to let people come in. I'm fixing to take Luna out. That's why I put my sweatshirt on. I was trying to warm up before I step out in the wind. It's not cold here. It's just chilly, and I don't need to be in the wind. Yes, I still have my ear blocked. I went nuisance hog hunting with David last night. I had basically saved up my energy all week just to be able to go sit and wait for piggies. And we knew with weather coming in, it was going to be a busy night. That front was clipping. And I knew if I didn't get out, it was highly likely I wouldn't get out till Thanksgiving if I got out then. So I went ahead and tried to get out, just trying to get some energy back up, do something that wasn't inside four walls of a home and just feel like me again. Well, he always sees weird stuff when he goes out there because you're on the top of this big knob at that farm that he traps, and you've got basically a 360 view. And we had kind of limited our first hour or something. We had limited our view because there was a guy that was hunting down in the other swag over the next ridge. And so he had backed over that ridge. Number one, to give him a sound block, a noise block, and to not have our scent drift over to where he was hunting. And the way the wind was swirling, it probably wouldn't have gotten there very well. But we went ahead and decided not to do that to him and just kind of back off and let him have that area. Man, I wanted that to be a better light. I don't know. I need to be able to see to get the tail done. I have on my face gator sweatshirt. Sorry, y'all. So we had backed up. The ridge kind of cracked down like that. We had backed up to where we could see all the field to the left, all the field to the right, and the swag behind us. But we couldn't see the draw coming up in front of us. And Luna, I swear, if you get up and start being a busybody, Mama's going to put you in timeout. Luna's chair. Go. Lulu. Luna's chair. Go. Thank you. She's being a little toddler today, y'all. So we had a pretty good view, but when you're up on the crest of that big knob, which is where we moved to eventually, you basically have a 360 view of the sky. And, you're out far enough, you can see stars and everything really well out there. So right at dusk, it was really funny because the wind had picked up, it had delayed, and then it picked back up again. And right at dusk, when the wind took another howling fiasco, we had a buck, like a 6-point buck, jump the ridge and about run over us. I had to go to make it divert its track to get away from us without freaking it out, And then a few minutes later, we had a hog come up that same draw and about run over us. And the thing is they were jumping over that draw, and it was not giving David enough of a chance to get prepared. And so we missed a nice hog last night. And then some skunks come through. We, kind of sat there going, go away, go away. And then an owl swooped down and almost took the bun off my head. That was fun. But then after that guy got done hunting for the day and it was getting really dark, we edged up to where we could see we was on top of the knob and we could see front. So we had a 360 view. We were on top of a knob. It was a windy night. Nothing could really tell where the wind was coming from, so we thought, screw it. And when you're on top of the hill, you can kind of make a little bit more noise because nothing knows where it's coming from because it doesn't bounce. It doesn't carry quite right. So we were kind of just playing all in last night going, we'll just be sitting ducks and just see what also has its senses limited on this horribly bad weather evening, and we'll just see what pops up. So we were sitting there, and as soon as the hunter guy left, we saw coyotes kind of trace his path out, which is fairly normal. They never got really moving a lot last night. They yipped around for a little while. But we were sitting there, and David was watching to the east primarily, and I was primarily watching to the west. I was scanning. He was scanning. And I saw about 1 shooting star per hour last night, which is not super abnormal for that area. David sees them a lot too, but 1 per hour is a pretty big number. And of course, they fall. They're basically colorless. There were a lot of plane lights that then turn their lights off and then would show up somewhere else and turn them back on. Plane, not planes. Y'all get what I'm saying? Probably had a half dozen of those go through. That's completely normal. David sees tons of those, and they get really close sometimes, and they're not shaped like planes. Oh, I hiccuped. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee. And so it hadn't gotten really late, maybe around 7. And we were thinking about moving up to go to the other side to catch a draw coming up off of another little bed and see if anything had bedded down in there and was trying to kind of hide against the wind. Luna, I don't have patience for you today. Go to your chair. Go to your chair. Thank you. Stay. I haven't served you lunch yet. Stop. And so we went over there to see what would come up because it was a little windbreak. We thought, well, maybe some stuff bedded down in there is hanging out over there. So we were just basically checking the draws on our way back out of the farm, tracing our pathway back to the road. And we got to another spot, kind of got still for a minute, and we could see way over to the other side of the farm. And there was another group of 2 hunters doing hog hunting on the other side of the farm where the road goes straight through. So we could see their lights as they were coming out. And we'd only heard them shoot once. So we figured if they got something, they got one, or they missed and they decided, screw it, we're going to leave. Really trying to eradicate these hogs. They're tearing the farm up. It's pathetic. The fields look horrible. And so we thought, well, we'll just sit here for a few minutes after they, settle down and all this noise, maybe something will move again. And as they locked, they took a minute because they were locking the gate behind them and this is way over the next ridge. As they were locking the gate, they took a minute and then they started slowly going up the old road. And all of a sudden something came out of the sky. And this is what I did. I went, what the hell? And that's what I did. That's what I did. And it came down, started out white, turned green, had orange things coming off of it, looked like flames, and then just disappeared, fizzled out. Looked like it was headed straight to that pickup truck they was driving and getting out of the farm. And I went, the hell? That's what I did. That's what I did. And David goes, yeah, we see a little bit of everything, but I ain't never seen one that color. Normally they're just falling stars that are just like colorless. They're just, clear to maybe a little bluey, and they just fall. And I'm blind. I'll have to look at the chat in a minute. So I was like, I've never seen one that color. Now, I have spent a long part of my life looking at the skies. Either when I worked cattle, worked horses, spent hours at the barns when the ewes were lambing, and when foals were dropping at the barns I worked at, camping, coon hunting. Spent a lot of time looking at the sky above and live in a remote place where you can still see a lot of the stars and a lot of the activity without, having the cities interfere. And so I was like, I have never in my life seen anything that color except for a firework come out of the sky. That was obviously not a firework. If it had been a firework to have been as big as it was, it would have to have been shot in the field next to me, and I would have to have seen it drop right in front of me. And it was God knows how far away. So I'd get up this morning, and I immediately, because I was sitting on that high knob, and I actually had data at that point, which is rare, but I actually had like a little bar and a half of data. And I messaged Sabrina, and I was like, oh my God, I just saw, and told her what I saw. And we didn't think much more about it because, weird crap happens. Nothing's tried to pick my fat butt out of a field or a wood, the woods yet. So who cares? And we went on about our business. But this morning I thought, well, I'm going to see if anybody else saw that. So I go on TikTok, because that's where everybody, tells everything. And there's this one guy that was in Waynesboro, Tennessee. And he was like, he caught it on his Ring door camera. And he was like, did anybody else see this? And I was like, yes. I was like, yeah. I was nuisance. This thing's killing me because it's way up in my head. I said, I was nuisance hog hunting with my husband last night. And I said, we had split the 360 view of the sky we had. And I said, I was watching the sky probably just as much as I was watching the fields. Because I just do. It's just how I am. And I would scan a little while, and then I'd look at the sky, and then I'd listen. And I'd scan a little while and look at the sky. And I put a comment on there about what I saw. I'm waiting for him to get back with me. But it was bright. And I saw how bright it was, and it was far removed from me, but it still looked gigantic. Don't know what it was. Haven't seen any official version of what it was, but there was some weird stuff moving in the skies last night. And if you compare them to old people like me, it's a completely different nighttime sky than what we saw when we were kids. It's just completely different. and the things that move around in it are completely different. Now, how do you know those things that turned off their lights were not planes? Well, if they were planes, then they were all in violation of the codes that they fly under, because they're not allowed to turn their lights off when they're in flight. So that, and I've never seen a bulbously shaped plane, you know? I see some people come in, and howdy everybody. You see, I've got a kiss your butt frog here, and he's going to be tethered to the cloud through his butt. So when I get him done, I will make sure that I show you all the finished project. I've got his umbilical cord and cloud here, but I can't crochet him without thinking. So I'm doing the possum tails because I can do that without thinking. I don't know what it was though. I don't know what we saw. Don't have a clue. I just went about my evening that I actually got out of the house, and I thought, there's so much stuff that I miss now since my health has changed. I spend a large part of my time sick and not well and unable to get out and do the things I used to do. But I will tell you that every animal we saw move last night was alone, was solo. And predator and prey were using the same paths 3 to 5 minutes from each other. It was a little strange. I do have some awesome trail cam pics for you of a bobcat stalking a turkey and catching a turkey, and it's beautiful pictures, like National Geographic trail cam pictures. I'll try to get those posted later. Well, David's got them. I keep telling him to send them to me, and I'll post them, but they're really neat. I want y'all to see them. I thought I'd do this new color for a possum tail. It's kind of I swear they call it bean paste, or in some places they call it meat powder, which is not a good yarn name. Just anybody care to take my critique? Not a good yarn name. Nobody wants to put a meat powder tail on their possum. My God, what are y'all thinking about? So anyway, last night was windy. So we had to. I mostly stayed in the vehicle or in a wind block. And when we moved, we parked up so we could crack the windows and sit in the vehicle toward the front of the farm. We got behind a big old grain truck that give us a natural wind block, and that was kind of nice because then nothing knew it was there because they're so used to seeing that grain truck, they didn't notice anything else. They're so used to hearing David pet around over there that they don't even think about him being there anyway. So, nothing really cares. They just know when that guy shows up. Some of us don't come back, but they don't really, care for him. He doesn't alter their comings and goings. He has a pretty strict routine that he adheres to so he doesn't freak him out. But had an owl swoop down, about to take the bun off my head. Rude. And then I come home, and of course, when you do nuisance hog hunting at night on a private land, which is about the only way to eradicate these big old freaking hogs that come in. And when they do come in hordes. But sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. Anyway, when we come home, we each had a rifle with a thermal scope on it. And I thought, I guess the neighbors think we look really mean right now. And I was like, I'm trying not to ruin my good relationship with the new neighbors. I don't want them to be scared of me. Also, I put on my tactical pants that I wore when I worked as a parole officer. I had to leave my pajama bottoms on so they wouldn't fall off of me. Now I've still gained some weight back from where they've changed my thyroid medicines, and my thyroid stuff is moving, but those breeches were still falling the crap off of me. So all night I was taking my breeches trying to keep them up. That was not fun. I thought with the little tactical side belts they would be fine because I didn't have a holster or anything on. I just had a rifle last night. And no, they did not want to stay up. So I had a fashion faux pas last night. That was not pleasant. But anyway, that was so weird. I don't know if anybody else saw that. If you did see that, let me know. Oh, is that what it was then? I thought it was probably a meteor the way it burned up. I think that's probably what it was. It was something really neat to see. And I've seen neat stuff out because I spent a lot of my time outside. Before I was sick, I was outside all the time. I didn't know what air conditioning was because I worked in horse barns and was outside all the goddamn time. If I had a day off, I was trail riding or I was hunting or I was doing something outside, fishing. But I don't get to do all that anymore with this stupid health condition flipping thing. And y'all know I've been pretty weak and sick the last couple 3 months have been, I've had to really conserve energy just to have one day to enjoy myself, just an evening to enjoy myself, a couple hours to enjoy myself, and then it takes me 3 weeks to get over that. It's my body is not being very nice right now. I'll just say that. And I'm wanting to go see the bonus grandbaby this evening when David gets home from work, because it's just a couple miles down the road. And where I was sick last week and running a low grade fever with my ears, I didn't want to get around him just in case, low grade fever, you wonder. And so I was just like, I'm not going to come see him just in case I'm sick. But it was my ears. And they're fine. They just got inflamed. And then I about broke my finger, which is doing much better. You can't hardly see it here, but it's got a big black dot up here. I about broke that knuckle clean. I mean, I think, I know I bruised the bone, but I think I about broke that knuckle. And don't aggressively fold anything under a ceiling fan. It will bite you back. Try to actually do something productive and about took my finger off. Now, if it had been a toe, I've broke about every toe I've got about twice, because when you're halter breaking show cattle, they'll just step all over you. And I don't even feel broken toes anymore. But fingers, like I can use yarn on it, but if I touch it square on the top of something, that's got a little bit more power than yarn, it really hurts still. So I know I bruised my bone. Yay, that was fun. What was I doing? Was I doing something fun? No, I was folding clothes and just forgot that ceiling fan was right there. And even though I'm short, my ceilings are short too, so I ought not do that. I don't know. But anyway, last night was really weird. It was a really weird night. The trail cam stuff has been weird lately. The animal movement has been weird lately. Seems like nothing's kind of going on the normal round. Their feeding behaviors kind of changed. Pack hunting behaviors kind of changed. Of course, we just went through, a new moon, 12 days ago? And so it's still kind of darkening up. It's still a little bright out. But it was dark enough last night. You had a good picture of the stars. And, I don't have great ears anymore from this, where I've had mastoiditis with this disorder so many times. So I just kind of rely on David's ears in those moments and a thermal scope. But, you forget all the things that kind of comfort you. I enjoy being outside. I enjoy being in the wilderness. I enjoy, accessing that part of myself, even though I'm very domesticated now in my old age. I really am. It's kind of, I'm almost ashamed of people that knew me when I was 20 to see me now, because I'm like, yeah, I'm domesticated. I crochet. It's because I'm totally not the person they remember. Well, when they talk to me for about 5 minutes, they're like, oh yeah, you're still there, but not the same person hardly at all. But I saw that thing, and literally it was huge. Like, if it was the meteor storms that they're saying, it was the biggest meteor I've ever seen. And maybe the other things that we thought were shooting stars were just meteors farther away that we didn't see the color on, or maybe they just weren't falling the right way to have the color reflect appropriately. I told David that with all this electromagnetic crap that's been going on the last couple of weeks, it could possibly be something to do with that, making the different colors. But I told him, I said, I really don't know. And then he was like, tell me about this electromagnetic. And then I was talking to him about the Carrington event back in that, 1850s, 60s. And so we had one of those roll your britches up meetings. We had a real deep talk about weird things last night out in the middle of nowhere with nothing but cows bawling. And that hog jumped the ridge, stopped right in front of us, and went, Hurf. By the time we both reacted, it was skirting its way off the field. And I was like, dang it. So that's when the other guy left, and it got really dark. Dusk settled, and then the dark came. We decided just to move up to where we would have that full 360 around us. And nothing ran over us after that. That was nice. I really don't want to have I've been run over by about everything in the woods that you can get run over by, but I didn't want to tangle with a hog because I can't tangle like I used to tangle, and the key. So, but we had a fun time. It was nice to get out. I slept super late today and have really been non-productive. But it was nice. It's nice to go out there and still feel instincts and skills still be there that I don't think are still present within me because I'm so domesticated now. But it was nice. Um, but I'm here to tell you that night sky was active last night. It was active last night, y'all. So active. Yeah, I know. I mean, it might be a meteor, it might not. Who knows what it was? But it was very, very, very weird. The colors and how big it was weird. Oh, is Karen here? There was a Karen and a Nancy. I've noticed in some of those. I've been watching some of the Boomathon and the Sabrina stuff, and there's some really good info people out there that I always look for their comments. And I'm about blind, so I can't really see everybody's names. But howdy, howdy, howdy. I have, yeah, I've not been on. I've not been doing a whole lot of stuff. David's been doing some trapping stuff, and I might try to go with him tomorrow so he can get a better trapping video than just the ground. I try to inspire him to do more. Even bought him a little one of those gorilla tripody things that you can bend. The man is just on a mission, and he doesn't think about what might be an enjoyable video. He just is on a mission. So if I feel good tomorrow morning, I might run out with him and check traps with him before he goes to work. Wait, no, he's off tomorrow. Turkey Day week is messing up the next 2 weeks of his work schedule. So everything's fast backwards. Yeah, these solar flares, like, we this book we've been reading, this is one of the biggest. Last year, we went through a big solar flare year, I think in 2019, right before the COVID. And then it kind of dropped down, and now we're going through another one. And, like when we read that book and we found out how influenza got its name, and that it was called influenza thousands of years ago. Well, I say thousands of years ago, but, since basically the beginning of time, because people back then thought it was influenced by the stars. So influenza. And they noticed that even back then, when they didn't have biochemical warfare, it spread across the globe. And when they finally had gotten to places to explore, then the people would have the same story of the same illness, but without any contact. And, before man had even found that other side of the continent. So it doesn't, now that I know that the sicknesses are running rampant right now, everybody's sick and everybody feels icky and the solar flares are up. And of course, we all know now about electrical illnesses, whether they want us to or not. It doesn't surprise me anymore that I have been weaker in the last few months and struggling more because I've had to kind of pull away from everything that I enjoy to do and just work on me. And I know that other people don't enjoy that. And I don't mean to make anybody feel left out, but there are times when I get so sick, I just have to set it all down and work on me because I'm not well. And I think my body's trying because my thyroid, after 18 months of not even registering a T3 score, is now moving. It's back on the register and we're moving. So my doctor, after 18 months, she's like, I don't know how it's coming back to life. It should be, she said, we should have been removing it in the next month or two. And she was like, it's starting to move the markers again. She said, so we're just going to let it do its thing. She said, I don't know what's going on. She says, I'm a medical anomaly. Well, no crap. Had a shirt on the other day that said, in a world of unicorns, be a jackalope or something like that. That was funny. Luna, do not get into crap. Nerves or something I do not have today. Patience is a second. But it was just a very strange night. A very strange night. Very strange sightings. Very strange animal behavior. Even the cows were acting weird last night. The cows were extremely moody last night. We got way out behind them for the first part of the evening, and then we kind of moved up closer behind them for the second part of the evening. But the cows were extremely moody last night. I don't know what that was about. Cows get moody sometimes, but like the whole herd was pissy last night. I don't know what it was. And normally, they're so used to people out there trying to fix this farm by now because we've been out there for a few years. So they're just like, ignore them, But last night they were like, no way. And I was like, nah. So it was just a weird night. And I have absolutely no eyesight in the dark. Luna, don't have time for this. Sit up. Go chair. Sit. Thank you. And so I just basically hover where we're stationed or hover around the vehicle because I can't feel my left foot and I will fall on something. And, if I'm okay, you can laugh, but it's going to make me mad. And so I just kind of stay close to the vehicle or close to the windbreak where we were stationed and just kind of hung out. I was basically just tagging along unless I could, get a really awesome shot at something. And but it was a very after the initial wind and the dark settled in, nothing really moved after that. I think everything was running to get out of the wind and bed down for the evening. Sometimes they'll move really, a lot on a night like that, and sometimes they won't. But their behavior has definitely been off the last few months, and David has noticed it in his trapping. He's picking up a new piece of properties. It's the same property owner, but it's a new piece of property he's going to tomorrow. He set up the initial traps today before he went into work, and he's going to go tomorrow to check everything. I may go with him tomorrow morning to check stuff just because I know I can rest when I get back. And then I probably won't be out again till Turkey Day, and then I probably won't be out again till Christmas. That's just how my life goes. I don't get out. I Amazon primed garbage bags the other day because I was like, I ain't going to the Dollar General. I'll buy them in bulk so I don't have to buy them for 5 months. That's what I'm going to do. But yeah, just weird. And like I said, I don't get out a lot now, but in my life, I have spent a lot of time looking at the nighttime sky, out doing just normal stuff. Coon hunt primarily, or out when the ewes were lambing, or checking calves on farms, stuff like that. I get out a lot and spend a lot of time outside, and I always take stock of the night sky. It's just, how can you not stare at something that's just so amazing? And so last night I noticed just how many significant changes have occurred in the last few years with the behavior of the night sky. And primarily in my area, which we're not super close to Knoxville, we're closer to Oak Ridge, but we're really in a gap where there's nothing important. And so for us to see anomalies in our skies where we are in an area where there's really nothing important, that's really kind of a dangerous area to fly and maneuver through. If we're seeing this many anomalies, then if people in significant areas were to pay close attention or try to get to places where their eyes could adjust so they could see more, what would they be seeing? It just kind of concerns me. I'm just like, I wonder what's going on up there. Yeah. Synthetic technology room. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of what we see now, especially mental health stuff, is the electrical illnesses that we have had forced upon us by all this crap. And they don't want to tell themselves. They just created a whole other medical component of it just to make more money off of it. It's just, it's just sick. Oh, and I watched the thing the other day. Oh my God, you never know what I'm going to watch. Gosh. Curiosity, the good Lord blessed me with. Probably not healthy. I'm just going to say this. So he's probably going, I shouldn't have done that in retrospect. Wasn't a good idea. But I was watching this thing. Did you know that, okay, with this EBT thing that was going on, now, like I told you the other day when I did a live, my area has not been highly impacted. We're a poor area. We are. And a lot of people, I'm sure, get those benefits. I don't know. But we've not noticed a lot of issues, mostly because area churches just create grocery totes, sit them on the porches, and everybody goes by and picks up a tote if they need them. So you can see on our Facebook community groups, totes available at so-and-so, totes available, non-perishables available here. People like my husband go out and we're doing nuisance hog hunting. Hey, y'all want a half a hog? Can y'all butcher it and process it? Do you need us to drop it off at the meat processors and you pick it up and pay for it? We're all pitching in and helping each other, right? David's fed few families. Not seeing a big hubbub. And then I'm starting to dig into this whole thing because now they're saying, we're going to have to reform EBT, which it probably does need to be reformed. And then I started digging into why they need a reformation. And then I found out that a lot of people that are making hundreds of thousands to even millions of dollars a year are branching out their finances. Now, listen, I'm poor as a whippoorwill. I normally don't have, 2 nickels to call up a squirrel. You ever called a squirrel with chick, 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 chick nickels? Anyway. Sorry, squirrel. But even millionaires, people that are greedy, as my dad used to say to sermons, that get all they can all they get, and then sit on the can. Those people. They are putting their money in trust and LLCs, branching it out, paying themselves a non-livable wage, so it looks as though they're earning, and it doesn't, the LLC and the trust doesn't report back to them because it's privately owned by, it hides their money basically. So we've got people that are making so much money that are in Section 8 housing, in rent-controlled apartments, getting EBT food stamps, and living basically off the welfare system, and that was not created for them. Luna, no ma'am. Hey, no. Get back there. We ain't playing that game today. No. I've worked with animals my whole life. Y'all can probably see that now. My horses hated me too. But they're flipping rich people that hide their money so effectively, they get welfare. And so a huge portion of our welfare tax monies are going to keep up people that are well-to-do, that are just too greedy and mean, and just want everything. And they'd rather have $5 than a conscience. It's troublesome. You almost missed a live. YouTube hates me. It never sends out notifications. Sabrina asked if I could talk about the weird, but I need to catch up on everything. Yeah, the hogs are, okay, so here's a really big issue in our area. Trail cam photos are showing hog movement in weird ways. Hogs are basically nocturnal animals, okay? They can't see really good. They smell really good. They hear really good, but they can't see very good. And so they're a nocturnal animal. They go out and they root up their meals and the dinner in the evenings and fuss and fight and breathe. And then they pretty much bed and hide during the day unless provoked. In our area, they've been running during the day. A lot of movement, a lot of like nonchalant, aloof. We don't care that the humans are in and out. It's like they're more concerned about something else. And so they've changed their whole routine up. And I thought maybe it was just because this farm that David tends to is so out of pocket and nobody's near it. I just thought maybe they were just like, it's the first guy we really see on a routine basis. Doesn't seem too lethal. So, And I just kind of pawned it off as that because animals will get used to lots of things very easily. Until I looked into an article about Cades Cove, which we love Cades Cove. We love to go there. It's just a beautiful place. And when you learn about the history and the land grab that they did to get it, I'm waiting for North Carolina to turn into Cades Cove because ain't nobody trying to fix North Carolina and all the damage that's still done and all the people that are still missing and all the land that's still totaled and all the roads that still ain't, it's just, they just left them. Just left them. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. And if you watch, what is it, Deep River Farms, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They just kind of left him. Just kind of left him to deal with it. And that kind of scarring on the land is... Anyway. So I was reading this thing about Cades Cove, and that's where my brain goes. I'm waiting for that to turn into North Carolina. But anyway, they're having an issue with all the people because there are so many people that do that 11-mile loop in Cades Cove, and I'm here to tell you it's bumper to bumper, and holy crap, if you don't know the places to pull off and hide and the nice little spots to, put your feet in the creek and have lunch, it's really honestly not worth it with the people that are bumper to bumper and trying to see animals. Used to be you'd see huge deer, but they don't really take care of the land anymore, and they've had huge die-offs because the deer breed so fast that the land can't sustain them. And then hogs have moved in, and they're by far destroying acreage that the deers also need for food. The bears only really come down in the summertime unless they're prowling through the picnic areas. They'll come down for the berries because there's tons of berries in the fence rows and stuff, the old farmsteads. But the problem they've been having in this summer, and maybe last, if I read it correctly, was that the people that are getting bumper to bumper on these roads, they're stopping to watch these hogs, and I'm talking like 200-pound plus, and they're coming out and they're feeding during the day right by these 11-mile long loop of cars and people, video cameras, talking, getting out. And I'm like, don't get out. That thing can cut your leg off in 5 seconds. You don't know what you're tangling with right there, buddy. Of course, people walk up to a bear and think it's a teddy bear. But these hogs are completely flipping the script, and their behavior is not appropriate. It's not appropriate. If you would see this behavior in raccoons and possums, which you do to some extent, but not hogs, and bear and deer seem to be the biggest differences we've seen this year. You would understand, you'd be like, is it rabid? But no, it's just the hogs flip the script. And we've seen a lot of weird behavior out of animals that are usually nocturnal, very standoffish because they don't have the best eyesight. They rely on their other senses. That's why they like to be out at night. And a hog is, people give animals morals. Animals don't have morals. They don't. That hog that is in there eating, if he's eating with any other hog that he is in his group eating, he is blood related to, and is probably beneath him on the totem pole. You'll see a bunch of sows with one big boar. If you see a bunch of boars, then it's probably a juvenile that hasn't been moved out or killed yet by a big boar. You'll see the boars have fights every once in a while and run the little ones off. They normally get out and run solo for a little while until a coyote or a hunter picks them off. Because if a hog is eating and two families merge, if that hog is rooting and eating and they're tearing up that dirt and using we call them tushes, and digging up that dirt in their nose and flipping, if he runs across a little baby hog that is not directly related to him, he'll just eat it too. Carlos is working on something. He just did a buzzsaw. So it's just really aggressive animals. People want to say, oh, if we just leave nature alone, it'll take care of itself. No, because man still needs land. And so we have to understand, we have to kind of balance things out so they stay healthy and I don't want to see something diseased and take 6 months to die. And no, I'm a steward of these animals in this land. So let's all stay healthy. Let's keep everybody in good parameters. I'm going to take care of them because they feed my family. So it's you scratch your back, I'll scratch mine. And Dave's a humdinger, I tell you what. David is getting so much better. Like now when David sees stuff, he's like, you need to tell that to Sabrina. Or he'll be like, you think that's caused by all that stuff? And so he's opening up. He's, and because he's been in the woods his whole life too, and he's seeing these changes too, and he's thinking about things too. I think the thing that really rattled him a lot this last year is when we started reading this book, my life changed. And I've been sick ever since we cracked open this book. Have y'all noticed it? I've been super sick. Am I still determined to get through it? Yeah. It may be slower than wanted, but I'm still going to get through it because I honestly feel like somebody doesn't want me to get through this book, which means I'm going to get through this book. And I'm still going to talk about it because apparently it's important. If it's important enough for somebody to tell me to sit down and shut up, it's probably important enough for me to stand up and scream. So that's just how I am. But yeah, Brother Dave, that's what everybody calls him. And if you're in my area, they call him Big Dave because his brother's smaller. They look very similar, and so they call him Big Dave. Or they call him Big Waters, Little Waters. And for a long time, it was Big Waters, Medium Waters, and then my son was Little Waters. And they had belts. It was funny. But they call him Brother Dave, Big Dave, or Big Waters. And he's getting better. He's getting a lot better. He's starting to understand. And the more I can kind of gear it down and explain it to him, like when we were talking about the Carrington event last night, and he was like, well, how potent was it? And I said, it was so potent that they had to unplug the batteries from the telegraph system because they were getting shocked and they realized there was enough electricity there. They could run their whole entire telegraph system without turning on any batteries, without using any batteries. That's how much electricity was in the air during the Carrington event. And he was like, holy crap. And I'm like, yeah, holy crap. You know, I am the dummy that I thought my core was busted on my Mitsubishi Montero one time, and rather than have to take it to a garage and have them charge me $75 to do something really stupid, I just grabbed it and it shocked me. I said, "Oh yeah, my coils, yeah." Shocked the crap out of me. Went through me and shocked my son that was standing next to me. I didn't think he was standing that close, but it got him too. Yeah, don't do that. Just don't do that. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money at the garage. But he's now understanding this and picking up a lot. But now that he's seeing a lot of behaviors that he's in the woods. He was a logger for a long time. He went to work at a hardware store for a long time, then come home and clear property in the evenings for people. Then he logged for a long time. He's guided hog hunts. He's trapped. He's outside the man's. Yeah, ever notice when I'm here, he's never in the house, is he? Y'all get to see my dad on video more than you get to see David, really, honestly. David might video when he's outside in the field, but you get to see Dad visit in a built structure more than David. That's just how David rolls. No, it wasn't my battery. That my coil was messed up. My coil was busted, and I figured that's probably what it was because I traced it back and I thought, well, there's one sure way to know if it is. If it's busted, it'll shock the pee water out of you. I sat there and waited out for a minute because that was when I was single and had 2 kids, and I was, my ex-husband had, run like a dog after trash. He had a nose for trash. I was his first wife, but he's just, bless his heart, just, but he had a nose for trash, and I'm so glad I got away from that because I won't have a dog that have a nose for trash. I ain't gonna have a man that does either. But anyway, I was a single mom, and I was just like, try to let a garage hoodoo me, thinking they're talking to a dumb woman, or I think I know what it is. Go in there and kind of know what it is. They don't get to ream me for as much as they will. And I didn't notice that my son had walked up close to me because I was digging under a hood where I wasn't supposed to be. And I thought, dang it, just grab it and see if it shocks the pee water out of it. It did. And so, yeah, that was fun. Don't do that. But I mean, I knew in 5 seconds. It still wasn't pleasant, but yeah, it was a profound experience. Much like when I was hooked up on the spark plug tester in shop class in high school. That was not fun either. We got graded on it. Is it any wonder the shop teacher only had like 3.5 fingers left on one hand? No. I pointed that out when he said that it was a grade. I was like, I don't think you have the skill set and the logic for this. And he was like, it's a grade. And I was at the very end, and a girl that had just been given her boyfriend's class ring, she reached out to grab my hand, and when I grabbed her, I don't know what that ring was made of, but it popped the far out of me, and then I backed into a metal shop table, and I sparked, I think, out my hind end on that table. Anyway, it didn't feel good, and I was like 20th in line, and the longer you go, the more the amperage builds. Is that the word? I don't know. But anyway, shock the pee water out of me then too. I don't have a good history with electricity. Not at all. When I was young, back when gum wrappers were just the little aluminum, just metal wrappers. They didn't have the coating on them. They weren't the fake stuff. I had an auntie goat that was irritating the far out of me, and she was testing that fence. And every time I put the fence up and I put it on that box, I put it at like max amperage, but she kept testing that fence and tearing it down, and it just didn't phase her. And I knew that my fuse is probably going bad too, and I was just like, I don't have time for this today. Let's just see if we can redneckify this until we get time. And I I put a piece of gum in my mouth, and I looked at that little metal wrapper, and I was like, I got it at Forbes General Store, which is probably why it was still the old timey stuff even back then, because they still sell a lot of stuff that's old timey, like in Sergeant York's time. And I took that and I took part of it, I rounded around that fuse and put it in that box and turned that box on. And that nanny goat who would lean over that fence as I was leaving to go, nah, she's wanting more food. She leaned up fence, and when that fence touched her throat, she went, nah. And I thought, oh dear. The fence was still up when I came back, though. Just saying. And nothing was on fire, so I think I'm smart. Probably not, but hey, listen, when you're alone and you're dealing with hundreds of animals and you have to make decisions, sometimes you don't make the best one. I was also very young. Never said I was smart, I said I was educated. Those are two very separate things. Oh, and she was a tough old goat. But she didn't fare well with that. I did get a different, it was the old timey ones that had the fuses on them. I did get a different fuse and fix it, and she stopped trying to escape after that. Where is the tail of this yarn? This is not nice. I didn't want to have to go digging. And I don't want to have to do it from the outside either. If I could be CEO of all these places that I use products from, I would change a bunch of things. Did y'all hear that Elon Musk is about to be a trillionaire? So Bruno Mars is going to get on and make a new song. And how is it in a time when everyone else is so poor and supposedly AI is going to take over the world? Are a lot of these businesses still, I know a lot of them are using AI to their benefit, but if manual labor is expensive, shouldn't technology that replaces manual labor be even more expensive? That way we lean toward manual labor to keep people employed. Maybe pair them, but still, no, they just want to make money. Well, why do you want to make money? Well, we want to be overlords of power. Of what, though? If you have all the power and all the money in the world, but you have nobody to gloat over, what's it worth? Honestly, because people only get rich to be, conniving, vicious, aristocratic buttholes. So if you can't put on a show for somebody, you're fixing to get rid of all the people that you put on a show for. Is it really worth it? Think about that for 5 seconds. I mean, you take Banny Rooster's hens away and he stops strutting. So don't shoot yourself in the foot. I think you better keep some factory workers. I don't think being a trillionaire is going to be near as fun as they think it's going to be. Just my thoughts on that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't have money, so I don't know what it's like to lord it over people. But I'm thinking that's what I keep getting the, emotional tug is what it is. So if that's what it is, what's the point? And then if everybody else gets rich along with you and y'all are still in the highest bracket, and what's the point? I don't know. I don't, money does not, I don't know. It doesn't consume me, so I don't understand it. Although I would like to be given the chance to see if it would change me. So, I really don't like money. I really don't. I don't like money. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of horrible things for money. And I probably could have been quite rich had I followed my federal lawsuit through to the end. But I would have had to have hurt a lot of people that the state put up as sacrificial lambs in order to get to the state top agents to punish them. And I couldn't do that. So I didn't do it. And I'm still dirt poor. I had quite the starting lawsuit, and my lawyer was quite happy. But the thing is we would have had to have sued the state and then everybody else that violated certain things separately as well. And then, so I would have had to have gone after a lot of my coworkers that they put in places because they knew, then she has to sue us. She has to sue all these people that she cares for as well. Great move on their part. I mean, smart, smart, smart. Now, had I been 10, 12 years older and a little bit more colder, I don't know, might have done it. Don't know. I don't know. But they played that one pretty well. Kind of irritated the crap out of me, but whatever. So I decided I would rather sleep at night than be rich. Um, I don't know. Does being rich make you happy? And I don't know. It probably just makes the sucky ride more comfortable. To be quite honest, that's probably all I can. That's all I can think it might help with. Your feet don't hurt as bad because you can buy the nice shoes. I don't know. You get to go to Walmart without having to have a calculator in your head. That's maybe a few times in my life have I been able to do that. Like go grocery shopping without having a calculator in your head. And that's a very liberating experience. For what it is. It really is. It really is. Had a friend that he said, I wait on tax time all year so I can go to Walmart one time and grocery shop like somebody doesn't have to think about money. And I thought, oh my God, bless your heart. Oh, he's no longer with us, but he had a view on life that, we got each other's sick humor, and I miss him. He's passed away. He was my best friend for like 35 years. I miss him so much. And, there's a family that owns a lot of property here. There's two families that basically own the entire county, and they're Gernts and Wallies. And the Gernts are richer than the Wallies, but the Wallies show it off more. And so when he would buy like a new porch swing, he'd be like, oh, I'm feeling like a Wally today. Not a Gert, but a Wally. And then he went and bought himself a new car. And he's like, dang it, I crossed over into Gert land today. I bought me a new car. Didn't even think about it. And of course, then he had to, he thought about it really hard and he had to pay everything off. But he was just a gem. He made life chewable. When life just, you take too big of a bite sometimes, he helped you process it. And I miss him a great deal. He was freaking hilarious. Freaking hilarious. I miss him. I called him Tater Cakes. He was, my kids called him Uncle Tater Cakes. Been best friends since we were in 6th grade. Miss him. Last few months he was alive, we were trying to buy his groceries and drop them off, and he wouldn't tell me how bad he was. He had cancer. And I had vertigo at the time with my ears being so bad, so another friend was taking him to doctor's appointments, and I was trying to buy as many groceries as I could for him. This is also why I'm not rich, because I don't really care about money, so I'll just take care of somebody. I don't care. I just don't care. I take care of people, and I don't think about my needs. I'll just take care of people. And so I was trying to buy as many groceries for him as possible, and the other friend was trying to cart him to all his doctor visits, and he had a strange request for popsicles, just not tropical, because he hated tropical flavors. And 2 days later, he was gone. It was sad. Losing him was hard. It was very hard. That was the friend that I lost about the same time that Sabrina lost her friend. So that's kind of, we both kind of set out into the world with a different perspective after that. I think that's how we found each other. And so it was, I definitely think the Lord was in on that one, because she understands some of the things I talk about that he understood. And I can talk to her in much the same way, and she gets it. She even giggles. But other people just can't hardly tolerate some of the things but I have a very gallows humor, because listen, I did pre-sentence investigations for the courts over murders and sex offender issues. Okay, I have read and dealt with, I've read about the behaviors of and dealt with the worst people on the planet. You can snore all you want to, but you're not getting food yet. But anyway, and when you work in that kind of environment all the time, you kind of, you have to have a different turn to process those really bad things. So I have a little bit of a morbid humor. And sometimes it's not pleasant. And sometimes I even catch myself and go, that was not nice, Elizabeth. Oh my God. But at the end of the day, it's a survival mechanism that my brain put into order. And I know it's not healthy. And I know I compartmentalize way too well to deal with what I dealt with in that job. But, it was necessary at the time. So that's what I did. And so that's how we did all that. Oh, Gypsy's in here. Gypsy has got, you still have those paint prints on the jars that you're selling. Gypsy is, if y'all don't know this about Gypsy's, I can talk. Gypsy's done a lot of historic paintings. Like in her area, she does the historic buildings, and when I tell you she can paint, she can paint. So she did art lessons and sold prints. Big, is a big to do. She's very talented, and she decided this year to sit down. And Christmas is kind of her busy season because she does a lot of those boxes for the kids and all that through the area church and stuff. And she's just a busy lady. And she has painted some of the little mason jar cutouts and put some of her prints on them. She has 3 sets and then 1 single. Okay. And so if you want, I like her artwork because it reminds me, it's got a lot of, every time you look at it, there's something new to see, but it's got a lot of emotion mixed in with it. And I need to dust it to show you again because I've not pulled it down to clean it well. But she did me a painting, and every time I sit down with it and look at it, I find something new. It's like a little fairy village, little gnome fairy village. But she has got some really awesome artwork. That would be awesome gifts for somebody that really loves art or creativity, or if you just want something made by hand and not by stupid AI, that'd be nice. Listen, if AI is much like my autocorrect, I don't have a lot of faith in it because my autocorrect changes the word my to NY for New York. When have I ever said anything about New York City? Never. Yeah, we definitely have to have people out there to lift us up. It's so hard to go through life with. Ugh. Okay, her name. Wait, did you change it back? It's under the Burris now, isn't it? Because I rely on pictures on Facebook. I don't read anything. I'm not on Facebook a whole lot, honestly. I only go on Facebook when I haven't talked to my dad, and I'm like, is he still alive? Has he been on Facebook Messenger? Because my dad is on Facebook a lot. My dad has a lot to say. Sometimes I have to go, Dad, can't do that. Yeah, it's Burris. That's what I thought. It's under Regina Burris, Burris on Facebook. So if y'all are interested in any of that, go check it out. She's very talented. It's very pretty. It's one of her prettiest is she had somebody very close to her that ran one of those like old general stores, and so she did a painting of the old general store. And but the one I like the most of the general store stuff is she actually did a painting of the man inside the general store with the big wall of stuff behind him. And it just makes me think of Ike off of the Waltons. It really does. It's just really, really pretty artwork. She grew up by a mill and just a beautiful, like, postcard view of the world. And she has a really beautiful artwork. So she says she still has some for sale, but she sold prints. Like, she had her originals and ran prints for years, and did historic paintings for the state of Kentucky, and just amazing. We have got amazing people in this community, and I wish I had more energy to dig and keep up with everybody and share everybody's talents. I really wish I did, because it would be nice to do that. I'll make you laugh. There's no telling what's going to come out of my mouth. Yeah, you got to be people. I mean, we need people to bond with and stuff. But yeah, sadly, at this stage in the game with the world the way it is, you have to be very picky about who you share your time and energy with. I hate factory nuts. when you pay so much money for something, it ought not have factored on in it. I'm just makes me mad. Okay, I get over it in a minute. That does irritate me though, because I'm like, what? Do you know how expensive you were? Don't do that to me. My husband sold firewood for a long time. And so when I wanted something, I would be like, well, that's going to make my husband have to haul three rick of wood. I wouldn't make him haul 3 rick of wood for that, so I wouldn't buy it. And I still think of stuff in ricks of wood. And this yarn's expensive. And I made the black cats out of it. And I don't particularly think the black yarn and it's the same brand this is, but this is much softer. Now, maybe once they're hugged and squeezed on for a while, it'll seem softer. And I might have stuffed it because I know that they'll kind of soften over time. I stuffed them a little hard. But I don't think the black yarn has got quite the sensation that this gray yarn does. This gray yarn was much nicer. And it irritated me. And then I got hold of a Bernat the other day that was not good either. Well, that black was Bernat too, part of that black. And it was, I don't know. Quality control is not what it is, probably because it's machine. I don't have a lot of faith in AI. I'm just going to tell you. But people get so butthurt over everything. And then, like in Florida, they were doing that Python. I just swept pages, just another one. In Florida, they were doing that Python removal. And they had found, like, pythons are killing the Everglades, okay? Killing. Causing damage that, in 5 years, damage is done in 100. So they decided that they were going to put out rabbits in cages where they couldn't be eaten and solar cameras so that they could have their biologists watch and see the anacondas, the python's movements. And then when they found out where there was, a large majority of them, they would send the snake wranglers out to whip them up. Well, then people started saying, and this was very successful. Then people was like, the poor rabbit, traumatized. But nobody ever thinks about the poor human being sitting in their cage at home, being traumatized with grocery bills and gas bills and electric bills and politicians' behaviors, and they don't think about themselves, but they'll think about a rabbit. Let me tell you what rabbits think. Clover, grass, make a baby, clover, grass, make a baby. That's not my baby, eat that baby. Rabbits, yes, rabbits. So when I see people, get butthurt over a rabbit in a cage doing a job that needs to be done, I'm just like, you do know that if he was in the wild, he wouldn't have made it this far. So he's probably like, okay, if this is the cost, I got to live 10 times as long. I'm cool with it. Yeah, put me in the cage. You can't eat me. But so they had to stop that program because, all the hippy dippies were getting butt hurt and they couldn't hug enough trees to make themselves happy. And so they started a new program. And this one was to put out robot rabbits, which cost them a lot more. Luna. She acting like she's stretching, like I'm not doing anything. She likes to get into stuff when I'm live because she knows I won't get up and tangle with her. She's like, I can get away with more now. Go back to Luna's chair. Go Luna's chair. We'll go outside in a minute. I know you hear Carlos outside, but we're not going to go visit right now. She's being such a little turd. Today she's definitely toddler today. But anyways, they put out and they made rabbits. Robotic thermal rabbits so that they emitted a musk that snakes could smell, body heat, and movement. Well, then the alligators started being like, oh, well, it doesn't eat well, but this is fun. So the alligator started destroying, even though it was working, the alligator started destroying the robot. So they couldn't financially keep that up. But they did figure out how the snakes were moving, where they were moving, and find a lot of breeding grounds and dens, and that's helped a lot. But y'all, we got to stop feeling sorry for everything but ourselves. Sometimes I'm not one to sit there and really like, you hurt my feelings. Let's take it and move on. But on the level of things, if I'm going to feel really sorry for something in this world, it's probably not going to be a rabbit that's going to live for like 9 months. It's going to be a human that is going to contribute something to other humans. You know, I worry about animals, but I'm gonna put that person above them. Luna May. Luna May. She's like, I'm going to bed. It's cool. I'm going to bed. She's being a toddler today, y'all. She's like, what can I get into today? And we have got to sometimes, like, you know, it's worth it. Like, is it worth a handful of rabbits being, you know, traumatized a little bit to save this whole entire big place of land and all these other species? Yeah, probably. Yeah. I just think we get butthurt a lot. We get butthurt a lot. Now, am I, you know, in favor of just horrific things like them going in and just killing ostriches and killing? No, no. Although I will say the last time that they killed a bunch of egg-laying chickens in Georgia. Or was it Kentucky? Georgia. And then the price of eggs shot up really bad. People were like, well, why didn't the price of chicken meat shoot up? And I said, because you're stupid. Because meat chickens are not egg-laying chickens. In our time, we have separated the two. Meat chickens are raised in broiler houses. Egg-laying chickens are raised in separate farms where they just worry about the eggs and the chickens that breed to mass produce the eggs. And the roosters, you know, they really have concocted like the limousine Cadillac version of chickens that lay eggs. And all they do is lay eggs. Meat chickens are sterile. How do I know this? Worked chicken houses my whole life. Grandpa had them. When Grandpa got cancer, we took over them. I was really good at chicken houses. We had some that had like 20, 21,000 of them each. And you picked up the dead twice a day. You fed them. You took care of all the mechanics and systems in the barn. You did everything. You had to look out for disease, and it was just an ungrateful job. You only got paid for the live ones you sent back, by the way. So you had to do a good job at it. And but those chickens are sterile. So when they come catch the chickens and then haul them to the chicken factories, slaughterhouses, they would be a handful that they couldn't catch still roaming the chicken house. And so we catch them and throw them in the chicken pen just because we had to get the house cleaned out and stripped and ready for another round of chicks because they grow in 6 to 8 weeks and they're gone. That's the life cycle of a chicken, okay? They're fed antibiotics and steroids, basically. This is why you don't see me eat a whole lot of store-bought chicken. Mm-hmm. But they're sterile. So you can put them in your chicken lot, but all they're going to do is get fatter until they can't stand on their own legs, and then you're going to have to butcher them. So we would let them get fat, and then they were so big, I would hang them up to skin them because I ain't plucking something that weighs that much. No, ma'am. No, I skin it. So I'd hang them big fat broiler house chickens up and skin them. But they're sterile. People don't know that. They're sterile. They're useless. They're honestly useless. So that's why the price of meat chicken didn't go up, because meat chickens are separate than egg-laying chickens. Egg-laying chickens just lay eggs in these big egg farms. And they probably live better than most humans, to be quite honest, because my brother used to be a big-time blood lab tech guy at one. He had to shower in and shower out. I mean, they're that fancy. I'm pretty sure they probably stay warmer than me in the winter. I guarantee that. But meat chickens or broiler house chickens, they are simply sterile. They're just made to grow really fast and be slaughtered. They have no use to them other than food. They can't do anything else. I mean, they'll annoy the heck out of the rest of your chickens if you think that's a positive, but they don't really do anything else. So didn't know if anybody else, but this guy was like, they didn't do it to raise the price of chickens because chicken meat didn't go up. And I was like, oh. Some people just, I see why they make adult coloring books. I really do. I really, really do. Especially the really simple ones. I understand. We got some people out there that are way too easy to snooker. I get it. But they didn't understand that. And another time there was a farmer that had gone to a cattle auction, and they had run that animal through. And, sometimes at auction, you're, 40 rows up, and you can't see everything because it's a little tiny little hole down here, a ring that they run stuff through. And they had marketed it as a big bull. They just basically walked him from one gate to the other. They, sold him super cheap. The farmer was concerned, but he was like, they've got it in the magazine, in the little catalog for the auction as a bull. Looked nice when he walked through. They didn't do much with him. Started to load him up, and he said, that's goddamn steer. Why'd you have him marked as a bull? And so he was having to, like, the livestock place, the stockyard, was being belligerent and saying that was his fault. He should have noticed that. Well, no, you marketed him incorrectly. And when you're way up there in the nosebleed section, you got to read the catalog, and hope that you get 5 minutes to find that animal in its stall before you go through, and they have the auction, or you won't get to look at it. Not the way you want to. And he had to sue them to get his money back. And they was, bless his heart, somebody that was different. And I don't mind different people, but, there's a different kind of different. He was like, well, that farmer should have been happy he got a steer because steer are so much easier to deal with. I read that. I looked that up. You don't know why? Because they chopped the little balls off and they don't have any of the big man juice. You'd be easier to deal with too. Gee, makes me think, haven't we got such a docile community here lately? In certain ways, in certain ways. Nobody's defending families anymore. We're defending ideas and feelings. But he still, and I said, that farmer didn't want a steer. Steer's used to him. He wanted a bull for his breeding program. Well, I just don't understand what you're saying. Received. Clear communication. I can't explain it to you. And now listen, y'all, when people are that stupid, we have a problem in society. When you're that confused about simplistic biological things, we have a problem. We need to talk about it. Because my 5-year-old would have been like, well, that's stupid. Matter of fact, I taught my daughter about men with cattle, because her biological father's the one that skirted out on him. He made a temp agency secretary in 3 days, left me with 2 toddlers. Okay. Sorry as a suck egg dog. A sorry man. Like, you will never tell me that anything he ever did in his life was nice. Because after that, I'm sorry, you can't make up for that. You can't make up for walking away from children. No, boo-hoo on me. I don't give a flying fart. But my children never paid child support, never did anything. Just blipped off the radar. And yeah, I'm not the nicest person. He probably didn't want to have to deal with me. But don't give me a reason to dislike you. It gets worse then. So, yeah. So I taught my daughter, of course she's raised, on farms, around horses, around cattle, sheep, goats, turkeys, chickens. And we were, there was a big farm, but a farm got quartered up, and a big cattle farm bought another big cattle farm. And all they had was an easement between them. And we stopped there one day. I seen the bulls about to fight across the fence at each other. Because I thought they was going to take the fence out and just have at it. And I thought, oh, God. So I stopped, and I was trying to get hold of the farm owners to be like, y'all need to come do something because y'all are fixing to have an issue. And I don't want you losing, thousands and thousands of dollars a day in these high-priced bulls because that would suck. But y'all going to have to figure this one out because this little 7-foot easement is not going to deal with it, And my daughter was like watching, and I was on the phone back and forth, and I came up and she was nodding her head. And I said, what? And she goes, I get it, Mom. And she was probably 12, 13 by this point. She goes, I get it, Mom. And I said, what do you get? She goes, men. She goes, I get it. She's like, I understand now completely everything you always wanted me to pick up on and be aware of. And I said, okay, enlighten me. What's that? Because I've been on the phone. She goes, this bull has got 200 cows over there and some heifers. He gets to cover those every year. And he's done. He's done for the year. He's on vacation mode till the calves come. He goes, and This bull got put over here with some heifers that didn't get bred the first time around, so they're giving him another chance with this new bull. And that bull, even though he's got 200 women, is ready to lose those in 5 seconds, possibly lose his life, to tangle with that man to have a half dozen that he just can't stop looking at. And I thought, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. My child figured it out quicker than I did in life. Yes. Yes. So, yeah. My daughter learned her lesson way quicker than I did. And I grew up. Like, I would, if I had seen two bulls like that, like I immediately diagnosed the issues with the bulls. Did I figure it out with men? Heck, no. I was not a good student in the ways of romance. I'm sorry, I'm just not. But thank God she caught on to it. And I was like, okay, well, the whole evening wasn't lost stopping to try to help these farmers out. But they ended up having to widen the easement, and actually they had to kind of double fence that side of the property. Neither farmer was, willing to do anything beyond that because they didn't want to lose the land, because it was all acreage where they had hay or rotated cattle on. So they didn't want to lose any of the land if at all possible. So they just decided to double fence that area. So if they got through one fence, they wouldn't have the area basically to build up speed to get through another one. And I guess it worked. They're just over the way. I've not heard about a big fight in the last several years. So either they learned how to get together on things or one bought the other out. I don't know. I don't really pay a lot of attention to that cattle farm. But yeah, thank God my daughter picked that up. I mean, hallelujah. I mean, because you try to tell your kids the things you have learned in life, but you don't want to like ruin things for them, But if they pick up on it and ruin it for themselves, that's their fault. Oh, that was mean. But it was a good lesson to learn. That sounded so cold. I'm really not this cold. I'm just having one of those days. Oh, that was funny. I'm really not this mean. It depends on the day. It really does. It depends on the day. But anyway, there's some weird crap going on out there in the world right now. And, most people try to ignore it and go on. And I look at it and go, huh? And sometimes if I think it's going to be amusing, I'll sit there and kind of poke the bear for a few minutes. I will. I got time now. I'm not supervising murderers anymore. I got plenty of time to, push everybody's buttons. So I thought I'd just push some buttons for a while. And I do it sometimes, and it's not always the nicest. It's not. But I learn a lot that way. And I play stupid a lot. You learn a lot that way too. I play nice, and then people see me and they're like, oops, she fooled us. And I'm like, you just didn't watch long enough. That's on you. I watch people for a long time before I invest a lot into them. I watch people for a long time because I want to see a consistent, stable baseline of who you are. And that may not always be nice, but I mean, it's worked out in favor for me. So that's what I'm going to continue doing. And then if I do bring you into my circle, you're in my circle. And you become family, but you have to fight to get there lots of times. But yeah, it's getting harder to find anybody that you want to bring into the innermost ring and, divulge energy in, because the world's just such a weird place now and people are so strange. And, they keep changing the diagnostic manual for the mental health issues out there in the mental health field. You move the goalpost this much in just 10 years, you up to something. You can't change your mind that quick. When you study something for 100 years and label it as this, and then you change it twice in 5 years because the social perspective has changed. No, sir, that's not what that's not what that diagnostic manual is there for. That diagnostic manual is there as a scientific tool, And it should not sway with public opinion. It just shouldn't. And oh gosh, well, I'm gonna take this sweatshirt off or go out and take her out one and start to sweat. The 20 years that I had to deal with it, it was like getting you a hunting regulations book every year, going, let me look and see what they changed, where they're going to try to trip me up and screw me over. They changed a bunch of stuff in the Tennessee hunting stuff this year. So you can pay like an extra $10-15 and hunt over bait this year. We don't hunt over bait unless it's like been illegal. Like you can bait hogs and certain trapping things you can bait and stuff like that. But like deer and stuff, no. So if you like ever see David's videos and you see a corn polish something, he's probably around hogs or hog hunting. I don't really think it's ethical to hunt over bait. Unless you're like nuisance eradication hunting. And yeah, the hogs, we've got to get rid of the hogs. They're pitiful. I'm going to make his legs last and sew them on rather than crochet them in because I'm lazy today. Hi, my name's Elizabeth and I'm lazy. How are you? You have those days too? Yep, I'm having one today. We have got, I say we like I do anything but crochet. David has another market the first week of December, which is the Grinchmas. And the Grinchmas market, the Grinch Festival, Grinchmas. I don't know how anyway, it's one of those two. And so I'm trying to make some more possums to send with him. But I have really been puny. I've not really been in a productive mindset. So he's going to have a possum shortage. Can't help it. Just is what it is. I've been busy with other stuff and have been puny with my disorder. Really, really, really just overachieving lately. And so I've not gotten as much accomplished as I usually do. So this next week, probably all I will be doing is, through Turkey Day, I'm just going to be crocheting. I really do want to put up a Christmas tree this year because I didn't do anything last year. Oscar was sick last year. I was not well last year. It got really cold and stayed cold. And all I seemed to do for 4 months was keep a wood stove rolling so I didn't have to pawn my children to the electric company. And I'm hoping that we don't have a winter like that this year, but we've already had a 15-degree, like a 20-degree day. So 15, 13-degree night. Not pleasant. 2 of them. And now it's 70 again. Ain't no wonder everybody's horses never shed off right. I mean, everybody's horses they want to put on winter hair in August, and then they never shed off till June, and you're like, what the crap? Well, bless their hearts, they're trying, but, we've ruined everything. Did y'all see Bill Gates sitting by Melania Trump the other night? Kudos to her for being social and kind, because I don't know if I could sit next to him without elbowing the crap out of that man. I mean, I'd be like, oh, sorry. Tourette's. And then I wouldn't feel bad about saying that at all because you probably did that to us. I think, listen, this may be mean, but I think Tourette's would be very liberating for one day. After that, it would be horribly, horribly, horribly. It would just be a really bad existence. But one day. Imagine how good you would feel after one day. I'd go to Walmart. Just to make sure I could get everybody on my list, I'd go to Walmart. Could stay in there and just call people names all day. Throw food. Yes, I have intrusive thoughts like that. I think everybody does. Now, I watch people that have got it, and I feel very bad for them because, you can tell some people there's no way they could manipulate their bodies to do all, bless their heart, they're in a cage. Mentally, they're in a cage. And then, you read books like we've been reading, This Invisible Rainbow, and you realize there's no wonder. I mean, we are under the frequency waves and everything, all the other waves they send out to, deal with stuff in this world and locate resources and stuff, natural resources in the soil, and just normal transmissions for the communication and stuff like. And you think of what we're under daily that we generate for needless reasons that affect us in very horrible manners. And that, somebody out there probably knows if they would just, not do this or do it on a different timetable or schedule, that we would be able to coexist much more effectively, as far as like having these huge populations with mental health issues and huge electrical chronic sicknesses that we see in people. But what is it? The plebeians have to care for everybody, but the aristocrats care for no one but themselves. And I just don't subscribe to that. I'm just like, if you're a human, you should probably care about other humans, in some base level capacity. You should have the ability to care, at least identify someone else as a life. And that's becoming a big thing to ask of our younger generations right now. And that just is weird. That is just weird. And nobody wants to call it out. We got so stuck on justifying and validating people's emotions that we don't see negatives as negatives anymore, which that may have been what they were angling for. I don't know. But I'm still gonna probably tell you live screwed up if you do something that, hurts another human, and you just like, well, listen, I could either make 50 million in my lifetime or salvage the human race. I went for the money. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Don't get it. But then they're thinking like the Windows 98, that it was possibly, they found like data retrieval stuff that was put out on Windows 98, still like trying to get backdoor access to programs that were just created. So this data program that's how old is still trying to backdoor get into to get data information from these new programs. So was Windows 98 something else completely? I don't know. Then, you look at the thing about all the people that are freaked out about McDonald's here recently. And then, you look at Gaelic slang in Ireland and Scotland, and a Mac is a man. So a Big Mac would be a big man. I mean, and who was the large class to be, and don't everybody start yelling at me about Anne Frank and her book and the Holocaust. And listen, no, but what other group of people was brutalized in many ways in almost every country that they showed up in? Well, the Scots-Irish. And I think like the people, that like created McDonald's, like started, I think that there was some kind of issue, or maybe the funders, they were like dead set against Scottish families and another like close money war for like, restaurants and stuff. And then they, everything's a Mac, a Big Mac, a Mac this and Mac that, and it's lame, and it's man. And if you read it that way, it's a very condescending menu, and it really makes you think. Of course, then they could have just been trying to brand something with stupid words too. You never can tell, but it just makes you wonder. I wonder a lot. I probably think way too much about things like this. Oh, I'm trying to look. I can only read so much because I am flipping. Oh, let me see if she's messaged me. Can I do this? I don't know. If I catch y'all off, I'll be right back. Can I do it? Oh, no. Can I? Hang on. I'm checking. I reconnected. I had a message. For some reason, Sabrina can't post in the chat, so she sent me a message. She asked if I had seen Megyn Kelly's tried a delineation about the 15 to 8-year-old. And listen, I saw when I was working in the corrections field, I saw when they were really starting to push certain charges more than others. So if you had a victim that was under 13, you were in a different bracket of felonious behavior. Okay. And so it was basically 13 below and 13 and above. That was the dividing line for a lot of the charges and how the DA would press the charges and how the law was written. And now we're seeing a lot of people come out and they're saying, oh, but in California, you can do this behavior. And if the kid is 10 years old or above, it's could be consensual. No, can't. I mean, no. Okay, here's my view on things. If there is a huge gap in the power dynamic that comes with maturation and cognition, then you have to look at it very differently. You have to. But they're starting to make sure that they're categorizing these children, and so they're chopping up that chopping's not the right. They're sectioning out the age groups. So the Overton window on these offenses are starting to shift again. We shifted it back about 15, 20 years ago, and this courts really started only prosecuting people hard if they had a victim that was 13 or under. The 13 above was if the DA felt it was, how old was the perpetrator and what was the condition of the crime. And so that boggled my mind a lot right there, because you would, and you would see young ladies take advantage of the older men just as much as you see the older men take advantage of the younger ladies. But if the law was held correctly, then both parties would be protected. But power is never equal. Why would it be? So now we're starting to see places and areas and states start to chop up, section out, language, Elizabeth, section out. And, now, we're having a hard time trying to identify when a kid is no longer a kid. Younger than the brain is truly formed. They're still learning, but it's old enough they have enough awareness that they can understand normally enough about the social hierarchy, and you'd say, am I in trouble here? Is this being misused against me? There's enough knowledge there to make a decision. But now they're wanting to lower that and say, over this age range, we've seen some kids in this age range be truly profound, and they're not victims. Just because one kid out of a million is a booger, we're not going on the smallest number. We're trying to look at the average issues so that it blankets the average crimes that we see. And every once in a while there'll be something, and they may have to treat it differently, may have to look at it differently, prosecute it differently. That's understandable. But why are we going by said for years? You start to take away the language, then when you take away the language, because there's two types of language in our world, if you don't know, okay? There's normal everyday communication, and then there's contract law language, which goes for like contracts and legal issues and blah, blah, blah. Two very separate languages used in our world. Lots of times, a lot of people are not aware of contract law language. So they don't understand the words that they use that can be used, not educated enough to understand where they tripped up verbally that can be used against them and then linked to their behavior, and then, make it a bigger issue than actually what it is. Okay, so back a long time ago, true story, I had an old man whose sister was murdered in one of the counties that I supervised in. I had to be in court every time that court had court because they had violent offenders coming out, and I was normally people they were given to. Even though I did mostly parole, I was one of the best officers for those aggressive people, so I was constantly in that courtroom, and the judge would say, no, Miss Waters gets that one. And I'd be like, and I felt that there was enough to say that, yes, the man that they had questioned and thought might be the perpetrator was probably the perpetrator. But for some reason, it didn't fall that way. And that old man, who's just an old hill folk, he wouldn't probably hurt a fly unless you really got in his bubble and forced him to. But he stood up and he said, this courthouse, and he said, this law is built on. He said, bad is useless, the same as if it's a blow to oblivion. He said, be bad is useful then too. Well, instead of saying if it didn't exist, it would be as useful as it is existing, which is what I took it as. It's about as useful as if it wasn't here because it's not upholding the law. They arrested him on making a terroristic threat and placed him on supervision. That man died on supervision. I had to go see him every month. He died. Was he going to blow anybody up? No, which reminds me, we had a bomb threat. Going for numbers, ain't you, bud? Just struck me as funny as, I'm sorry, it might have been mean to me, but I laughed my behind off. Because I thought, man, somebody's really bored or really high in my neck of the woods last night. Because if you're going to be stupid enough to make a threat, try to make a valid one. I don't know. If you're going to cross that line, do it with some kind of validity. I just laughed my butt off. I literally, like, my husband he was on the cell phone. He had to walk away from me because I couldn't stop laughing. He couldn't hear who he was talking to. And then I messaged my friend Kim and I was like, bomb threat at the Walmart. And she's like, I'm still laughing. And I'm like, oh my God, I am too. Nothing ever happened. It's okay. The Walmart is fine. It was just funny. Anyway, so that guy died on supervision for basically just saying, this is as useless as this. Like when I say a man's as useless as tits on a boar hog. Basically, that's what he was saying. He just said it in a way where verbally the law could nab him. But we had just watched his sister's murder go unchallenged, basically. And then they were going after him for saying that. So obviously there was another issue going on there. And I'm sure it was a family power dynamic. I paused if it was when I started looking into the backdrop of the family and all that had been going on there. Not get into that, but, those things happen. And so a lot of people don't understand how the law is written. And which is their actual definition in the dictionary. And we don't understand that as a society. So we get ourselves in a lot of issues saying things we probably shouldn't say, or not understanding how words can be used as, weapons against us. And I think that's what they're trying to do with arguing what is a woman, what biology, what is this? How do you determine that? And we're leaning on emotions rather than science because we're tearing down our vernacular. And if we start tearing away the words, then you can bend the law. Well, what have we seen in the last several years? We've seen the law used in ways that's abnormal, correct? Yes. And we've seen it used in ways that we obviously have sat here and said, well, they've not used it in that ways in 200 and something years. And why is it being used in that way now? Because the vernacular, the words, the communal meaning of things is changing. Therefore, our words are changing. And therefore, when they feel society shift or they make society shift, and they can go in and shift the contract law vernacular and the meaning of the words, because words change in 300 years. The meaning of the words change as the lay of the land and society changes, words change. And nobody's trying to tell us what words actually mean anymore. It's an emotional meaning, therefore they can twist even more. I'm sorry, the contract in society, these definitions we adhere to. And then they step it up in contract law and we adhere to them in different ways. So they're just breaking it down. They're just breaking it down so they can twist and maneuver and pull you over here and deal with that. And I'm just like, man, okay, so now every time I see somebody that pierces their nose right here, and God love them, I've got some people that I love in my life that have pierced their nose, but I do tell them every time I see them, I'm like, why they did that to hogs? To keep them from rooting and getting free. Because if you put a ring in their nose, they'll hurt their nose and they'll stop rooting, and then they stop getting out and getting free. So you are just basically wearing pop it in, Sherry. But yeah, so now you understand how things change. But I really do think that there are people that all they're educated for is to sit in a back room and look at the structure of our nation and the legal components, and then look at societal perspectives and perceptions, and then sit around and tweet and have more power to change them structurally. And I'm just like, we're not building anything good if we're propping it up on toothpicks, something that we can take out in 5 minutes notice. I don't see the point of it. And I have to sit here and think, well, it's gonna fall back on y'all, because even though you think you're in power right now and you get to dictate this socially, pendulum swings. You can't, it's always going to do it in society. Pendulum swings. Do you want that power to be used back against you? Change things, because when you start to change those things in society, you create upheaval, miscommunication, misinformation, misunderstanding. And then you create a lot of resentment within your social classes, and just a lot of aggression, because nobody understands the laws, the rules anymore. It's all changing. And then we get, trapped in a corner by something that doesn't make sense. And, the next thing we know, a whole ideological crowd base is being funded. And ta-da, something that's 300 years old doesn't mean what it used to mean again. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating for me. Yeah, well, they desire their order, their own blend of chaos, as opposed to, as long as they are behind it, as long as they are the emotional hostage takers, they don't really care what they create, as long as they feel that they can drive the bus. We may all be going to the mental asylum, but as long as they think they're driving the bus, they're okay with that. Because they still dictate the movement momentum of the people. So that's why you rarely see me react the way that people think I react, because I know they want that reaction, and I just normally won't give it to people. So, um, and it'd probably be on my headstone. That will probably be some way into how I leave this world. She did something real stupid and really ticked them off. That's probably going to be something I do. Or I'll stub my toe and my disorder will think I've been hit by a Peterbilt and I'll swell up and die. After hitting the ceiling fan with my finger that never really swelled, my whole arm did, had to have a talk with my body and go, something? Communication. We didn't hit the arm, we hit the finger. And but as you know, I have this neuromuscular disorder, and I basically have a diseased nervous system, which really foobars you up. And it's really funny that I have a diseased central nervous system, because I don't respond correctly to some types of also emotional pressure, because that's parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system and central. But so I don't respond appropriately physically, or and maybe that's why I don't. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe I found a loophole. I wouldn't say take this loophole. It's not very. It's not a very nice one. It's like EMS is very similar to what I have, but this can't be controlled and it can't be in any way slowed down, and it goes and it's starting to attack my organs, as y'all see with my health. Um, my disorder may have a reason behind that as well. Oh, I think, in order to have us mentally, emotionally, psychologically where we are today, they have been doing this at least since World War One or two, at least, and probably in some capacity before that. Um, because there are so many radicals in the psychological construct, is that the right word I'm looking for, that it would take so many generations to have gotten the knowledge that they have now. They would you would have to see you would just have to see a lot of people come and go to get to the knowledge they have now. So this is probably for probably before then in a lot of capacities. If you go back and look at the monarchies, you can see a lot of but in with the US specifically, I think they have been I think it's been a primary undertaking to try to usher the movement momentum of the people in specific ways, especially since the world wars, because a lot of the world war propaganda was just not necessary. It's just not necessary. A lot of the factory workers that would put to work doing stuff with chemicals that would kill them, not necessary. They knew exactly what those chemicals were to do. And then you look at the chemicals and were they absolutely necessary? No. No. There were other ways to do it. In Vanderbilt, at the Vanderbilt, this is Vanderbilt in Tennessee, the hospital people, the group, there were, I don't know how, a group of doctors, I forget how many, and they were all OBGYNs. And back in, I think it was the 60s or 70s, they decided, maybe the 50s, they decided to privately start to give pregnant women radioactive pills because they wanted to see what radioactive pills would have, what would do to the formation of the fetus and the pregnant body. They didn't tell these women this. They told them that they were taking it for something completely else, as something completely benign. And then the last doctor that was alive finally cracked and told everybody about it. Y'all need to go look this up. Don't trust me, go look it up. He finally cracked and told everybody about it. And lo and behold, they started researching these families. A lot of the kids lost their mothers to really weird thalidomide. Why can I not? If I hadn't wanted to say it correctly, it would. Anyway, those kids that come out with misshapen limbs and stuff from created birth defects, but that the doctors actually knew would create birth defects. It was like they were studying. But this happened at Vanderbilt in Tennessee. Now these, the surviving people know. And I'm gonna have to frog this. I did his neck too big. The surviving people, they're even though Tennessee is, got popular areas, it's really hard to get a good doctor unless you're in a metro area. So a lot of these specialists see people from all over the state. It's just really, I would never, instead of, but they never found out anything but bad. And so they just shut their mouths. But the last little guy that was living, he let the cat out of the bag. And I think he just couldn't take it anymore. And so they found this out and started researching. And I'm just discombobulated, I would say, is my general area. It's just mind-boggling. Of course, I grew up next to Oak Ridge, where you don't know what's going on over there. You don't. That's why, when we're sitting out hog hunting and we see crap, mostly the biggest line that anybody ever say to each other is, good thing we don't live closer to Oak Ridge. God knows what we'd see. Close enough, but and it's true. You just don't know. You don't know. The capacity of a person's mental and emotional stretch socially here lately has certainly given me reason to be concerned. And really what we're doing is reducing the respect on human life. We're reducing that so that basically we become bargaining chips, tools, fodder beans. Anybody ever ate fodder beans, Lily Bridges? They got a little bit of like a vinegary wang to them sometimes, but I like them. Fodder beans. Oh yeah, women's medicine is like 100 years at least behind male medicine history, because they just did not deem women important enough to worry about. I've looked for another reason, but that's basically all I can find. And they wanted to kind of keep, the happenings of women kind of woo-woo mystical, because women have been a pivotal role in a lot of social schemes. I'm just going to say that. And I think it's because with estrogen, which I don't have any in my body anymore. I don't take it, and I had a hysterectomy when I was 30. So, adios, emotional creatures. And we react erratically through emotions many times because our hormones do augment so much through our lives at specific times. I gave that one an extra long tail. I was talking. It happens. Oops. Some kid's going to be able to tie him up somewhere. I know. Let me tell you what. When I was in labor with Lane, my boy, um, I did it all natural. 30 to 32 or 34 hours of labor. 32, I think, hours of labor. Like I've said many times, I'm educated, not smart. But the I was only 20. I married once when I was 19 to my first husband, who was a piece of trash. Oh man, that was, you want to talk about a just brain fart. That whole 6-year era in my life was just I did not know how conniving people were. I was raised in such a protected community. Anyway, but I mean, I had a huge brain fart there. And when I was having my little boy, the epidural man came in. He goes, "I know you didn't really ask for one. You've got this natural birth plan laid out, but I really think you're going to want this." And I was like, "No, I want to have this kid natural. It'd be the best thing for both me and the baby." And he was like, "I just don't think you're going to be able to do it." Well, that sparked within me the anger that I carry of, "What you talking about, Willis? I can do this if I want to. You don't tell me what I can and can't do. Men have been doing that to me my whole life, by God. That's why I bench 150 pounds. I leg press 700. Leave me alone." And I mean, it just turned I was just loud that day. And he said, "Well, I'll be back, but I think you're going to change your mind." I was like, "No." And that was a rough labor. I had an au naturel doctor. I should have probably had a C-section, but they were like, "You can do it." And I was like, "Yeah, I can do this." What it is, we found out later that where I've ridden horses since I was like 3, and a lot during my pubescent era, I was in the saddle for sometimes multiple hours a day. My pelvis is tipped to fit my saddle. I have X-rays on file at one specific hospital, and I had to bring my saddle in, and we have X-rays of me sitting on that saddle on a saddle holder because the doctor was like, "Something's wrong with your pelvis." He's like, "I don't know if you've got a genetic issue." And I said, "Well, I've ridden horses my whole life, and I've had like 2 saddles." And I said, "One that I've stayed in for like 10 years." And he was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." I had actually gifted that saddle to the girl that bought my horse when I moved out for college, and I went and got it, and we took X-rays with it. And the doctor was like, "I'll be dagga." And I was like, and it was one of those, it was a hard tree saddle, leather, no padding, no suede seat, no nothing. But I mean, I don't know how many miles I put on that saddle with that little sorrel horse I had, but it was a lot. I cut, I don't know how many hundreds of miles of trails for horse rides. I don't know. So, but the doctor was like, "Holy crap, I've never in my life." And I was like, "Now you know." So, but I was in labor for 13 hours, and that epidural guy came back, and he was like, "Are you done now? You want to just go ahead?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine." And I mean, and I never cried and never screamed out in pain, but my mom and dad was in the hallway. They said it sounded like I was grinning down a bear, and it was hard work. And they kept on trying to put me on this bed in my back, and I said, I don't feel good here. I can't push here. I can't do this here." I said, "Leave me alone." And I crawled out of that bed, and I sat on a labor ball. I hung over the bed. I squatted. And finally I just looked at that doctor, and I was like, "Leave me alone." And I went about my business. And then when I crowned, the nurse was like, "Get back in the bed." And I did like the last final push in the bed, but I had to work that baby out all over that room. I was moving, and I was working. And the doctors, they were really trying to tell me what to do, and I'm just not built that way. I'm just not. I was very passive in my life until the moment I decided not to be, and then I was not anymore. It was a channel. I flipped it. And so I've, always wondered, because, women used to have birthing chairs, gravity helps, but women used to have birthing chairs, which in my mind would have been a lot better than laying on your back, because here, I'm just going to be rude, because when you start to give birth, it does feel like you're fixing to just crap a watermelon. It really does. I mean, let's not romanticize just nature. That's what it feels like. And, but they, they were trying to restrict me, and hey, listen, we was about to fight because my body was telling me something that they were trying to say no to, and I was bigger than them, and by golly, it was going to happen. So I just kind of dealt with that labor the way I needed to. And my daughter, I was already in labor when I got to the hospital with her, so she was much quicker. She was also an overall easier child until she got her estrogen in, and then it was like, she got her estrogen about the time I lost mine. That was a, T-bone emotional car accident that should not have occurred. But Lord have mercy, she was a struggle for about 5 years. Whew. I knew she's going to need that spunk when she got older, but I didn't want to have to deal with it. I wanted other people to deal with it, but I had to deal with it. But that's okay, Now I see her and I'm like, okay, that's good. She still got that spunk, but boy, that was hard. That was a rough first birth though. But that guy, that epidural guy, came in right before I had him, and they were like, "Oh, she's having a really hard time." He came in to stand in the corner and grin at me, and the whole time he's in there, I didn't make a peep. I just looked at him and stared. And finally, my doctor was like, "You need to leave," because he wanted to be like, "See, I told you," and we ain't playing that game. And then after I had my son, they rode in this really tiny little wheelchair and said, "We're going to take you back to your room." And I said, "Screw that, I'll walk." And I walked back to my hospital room. And everybody in the hallway was like, "Oh," and I was like, "I just delivered a child into the world. I think I can walk through a hallway." But, they thought I was doing this magical thing. And I was like, "No, I just don't want to squeeze my behind in that chair. I'm a little sore." So, but it was a very weird birth. And they really, if they just wanted to streamline it, so listen, they got paid and didn't have to contend with me. They just really wanted to tell me what to do, deal with it so they could be in control of it. And, it was another day at work for them. And I just, no, I'm sorry. I'm the one pushing a kid out into the world here. I'm going to dictate the day. Thank you very much. And I did. And my doctor he thought it was hilarious because he was au natural. He really didn't like the medical side of things anyway. So we kind of had a private laugh over that. But man, it was a hard birth. Woo, it was a hard birth. And it's because, listen, I grew up on horses, and my pelvis is, it was augmented a little bit by all the time I spent in the saddle, and I don't have the perfectly shaped pelvis to bring children into the world because of that. So, if I was a heifer on a cattle field, I would be a hamburger. So, Carlos is building something, and he's using tools that are ply blank funny today. They make noises. He had his, I call it polka music, but it's that Latin music going. And I don't care. He's working outside, and I don't mind it. So he was just, the things that you would really overlook if they're nice neighbors, Heck, I'll go on my front porch and I'll salsa dance. I don't care. You don't have warrants on you, and you're not going to steal me blind if I have to go in the hospital. We're good. He's really sweet. His wife is just as sweet as she'd be too. I'm really enjoying this whole new neighbor situation. And it's nice to, I don't need to live alone. I like being not living in a highly populated place, but I don't have to have like nobody on 50 acres next to me and blah, blah. I just need to have somebody with a brain and maybe half a heart next to me, because the people I live next to for 20 something years, honestly, if I didn't have the farm to disappear to, I don't know if I would have made it through a lot of that I went through the last couple of years. It was disturbing. And it's mostly because I worked in it for so many years, and I just didn't want to have to deal with it while I'm home and sick and trying to deal with my life. And I thought, I just didn't sign up to deal with this crap the rest of my life. So it seems like there's new, younger families buying and the land on the other side over there. And It seems like they're going to be bringing in some maybe young professionals into the, young working class, decent, moms probably will stay home with kids, but the fathers are, they're working every day. And I'm thinking we're going to have a much better experience in this area than we've had in a while. I forgot your thumb. My goodness, I just rolled back evolution. Let me give you a thumb. I was about to put him back in the dinosaur ages with a possum. You deserve a thumb. I'm sorry. This is what happens when I talk and don't crochet correctly. This is why I should not probably do a live and crochet. But transpossumism, it happens. He's been affected by the electronic illnesses. He can't help it. Somebody pushed the remote too many times. Now, this is not going to be attached at like the best place, but it's still going, oh no, it's working. Okay, I'm not going to fuss, it's working. We're good. I about took away his ability to flip people off with a middle finger. He about didn't have one. That would have been horrible. What an existence. Okay. Okay. There, I made Darwin proud. We're good. Look at all my... Oopsie. Oh, he's putting up underpinning over there. He's been winterizing that big RV they have the last little bit. Well, it's been nice outside. The sounds finally made sense. Because I'm too lazy to look out the window. Yep, that's me. I don't have to be so, like, protective mode all the time now. I don't have to worry about my neighbors, being high on something or under the influence, going to do something really stupid because they're under the influence, or have something occur at their home really stupid because they're under the influence or selling something they shouldn't be selling. It's been a much nicer existence here. I just have to tell you. Whew. Because it's getting kind of rough there for a little while. It was not pleasant. Let me see if I can get this little thumb put where it needs to be so it doesn't look so atrociously. Well, it's just not that bad. Okay, he's good now. I'm sorry. I just went and shook up everything right then and changed the whole genetic code. My coffee spit up on me. Oh, I sucked an ice cube up to my straw. Surface tension. Okay. I'm going to have to go let Luna pee. She's about to give up on me and going back to bed. But anyway, I come on here to tell you about a big green meteor light I saw in the sky last night. You see what we've done for how long? It's calling in here too. I wish I wasn't so blind right now. Oh, Colin's dropping some interesting stuff in the chat. Colin always has interesting stuff to drop in the chat. Hey, you got conversational. I've got security cameras everywhere that feed to me that tell me what's going on. So, but now my past career, I just, I've still got people coming out of prison that I put there, and you just want to be a little careful. You only have to really tick off one person. I don't think I did, but I mean, I think I had a good rapport, and everybody knew I was fair and on the level. But you still you get a few threats along the way, and I know when these people are coming out because I get notified, and it's sometimes it can make a few hairy weeks in my life where I'm like, paranoia is a little prevalent. What are you talking? No, Margaret. Margaret makes me laugh because Margaret's wavelength is very similar to mine. And so normally when I read it, I get it. I mean, I don't, it's just, I get it immediately. We probably see the same mental images. It's just that. Wow, Colin. Oh, my lid's messed up. Hang on, we have a suction problem. Okay. No, I think my seal has moved. Stop. You're only 4 foot. Listen, when y'all are going on the panels and stuff for like Boomathon and stuff, webcams can change the way you look. Like from up here, like a normal parallel to up here, I look way different than I do when you're flat on the table or slightly below me looking up. I have 2 very different profiles, probably from all the cow and horse bricks I had in my life. So side to side, I look different in certain ways, and I think honestly, it's been from a lot of the wrecks I had when I was young. So, as my best friend would say, it's all smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. Listen, if you write a thesis, you basically do write a book. I see stuff now that makes me want to sit down and try to do it all over again, but I'm like, nah. There's been a lot of people putting in orchards. Before you put in orchards, make sure you look at the water table and have a backdoor idea of. It's really interesting. Like look at these areas that have water masters, and they have water masters to divert. Like when there's rain and stuff, to divert it to use it basically as an aquifer for people that with farming areas, rather than for it to go into areas where it's not really usable or necessary. And it's always good to have like a backdoor idea of the water table and all, and how it's going to move from in the area, and how you can maybe harness that at some point if you need to. And I was telling some, it was Sally. I was talking to somebody in Messenger the other day. It was Sally. Anyway, and I was saying, we didn't have a pump or a well down where we kept the hogs for a long time, but we had the dam of the pond there. And so we got a pipe and put through the dam at a level in the pond, to where if we stepped on it and basically created suction, it would just water out and we could get water directly from the pond. And so if it rained a lot, we could collect a whole lot of water and fill up troughs. And then we would just collect what we needed to keep them watered until it rained a lot again. And all we did was, prop a hose up or a big pipe up through the dam and use gravity. Same thing if you use like a T bracket in like a waterfall management area or something, a T feed, gravity feed, to keep it level. And so people be like, well, we'd have them down there looking at the hogs and stuff. They'd be like, well, how do you get water down here? And we just go step on that pipe, and maybe like, oh God, that's smart. And I'm like, it's pipe and gravity. I mean, if I didn't think it was like horribly woo, I just thought it was pretty normal thing to do, because people around here have been harnessing gravity and water coming off the mountains for I don't know how long, and so I thought it was just a pretty normal thing to do, because when the dam of the pond would get high anyway, we'd need to do something with it every once in a while because it would cause a mess everywhere else. And so that was pretty neat though. We would do stuff like that. I did a lot of waterfowl management when I was in my late teens. Um, I was in a lot of groups in my high school, and I was in the like agribusiness group, and in working a lot with the Wildlife Resources Agency. I can't talk. And we did a lot of waterfowl management that paralleled a beef production area to use the land to its utmost acreage wise, so that we didn't have basically useless land. And so we created a place for like wood ducks that now migrate through here on the backside of what was a swampy, useless area for the cattle that they couldn't get in. They'd break their legs and get stuck. And so we made all of that into usable agribusiness, you know, area land. And so that farm can't be touched for that farm at that school can't be touched for like 100 more years because it is deemed a wildlife habitat. And I did that. But I did a lot of that when I was in high school, my late teens. So, and we got down to where we had seined all the fish out of the pond that we had to reconfigure and move. So the water held in different places, and we had to put the fish back in. Don't worry. Then we realized we had missed it was a pretty large fish. We had missed it. And we were not prepared to seine that day. We were coming basically to just mark off places to start construction. And the guy that was ahead of this, that worked at the school and that was leading this, was an Algonquin Indian. His name was Coach Warren. And I adored him. I don't think anybody knew him the way I knew him. I knew him outside of school and in school. And he was just he's just amazing. He was just amazing. He was at home in nature. He just was amazing. And he was like, well, we must get that creature. And I was like, we must. He's like, well, we can't do construction until they're all removed. It's basically, you're under contract with the state to make sure you do this in a certain way. Of course, I was the only girl in the group and in the classes that were doing this. So all the boys were like, nope, we didn't bring change of clothes. We didn't drive today. And I was like, holy crap. And here I go in with, $200 Laredo boots and a net. Because if it doesn't get done, we can't move forward, and the construction would have been pushed back. And my mom had to pick me up. And she had to find trash bags at the school when she picked me up, because I was covered in mud and soaking wet. And she was like, Elizabeth Ann. And I was like, it was the last period of the day. I knew that you were just, 15 minutes away. You could drive by and grab me. I'll go home and soak them outside and then wash everything. It's fine. But she was just like, what on earth, child? I'm like, it's just what it is, Mom. So I was one of those kids. My poor mom, bless her heart. I was one of those kids. Colin, you are filling the chat up today with information. But I was really worried that school had been built on an agricultural education basis, and they were trying to change that, which would not have served this area in any way, because we're still a highly, beef producing agricultural based area. And we didn't want that to change. I didn't want that to change. He did not want that to change. He was, like I said, an Algonquin Indian, very, very reserved about, he wanted to learn how to use the government stuff against the government. So he was like, I'll make this land where they can't change it. And I helped him. We all pitched in. We all did it. And he's gone now. He ended up passing away probably about 7 years after I graduated. I didn't get to go to his funeral. I had just had my daughter, and she had her stomach flap would not close and hold her food down when it wasn't formed all the way. So she was like a little volcano. So we didn't do a lot of traveling when she was tiny. We just had to stay home because she would just throw up all the time. She took her so long to put on weight. Lord have mercy. so I didn't get to go to his funeral. But he's gone now. But that school is still an agriculturally based school doing huge agricultural programs with the UT offices and all that stuff. And it's because they can't change it because we attached the land to a TWRA habitat protection site. And when I'm gone, and probably grandkids are up there, it'll still be a heavily agricultural based school because they really have no other way to use it and use it effectively unless they use it as a farming school. I'm a turd. But I've been quite effective in my life, so I'm very happy about that. Boy, we got some heavy stuff going on in the chat today. Okay, well, I'm fixing to have to go take her out. I've just chewed the fat for way too long, but at least I got a possum body out of the deal, and we got to have some laughs. So yeah, if you hear anybody talk about the big green meteor light they saw in Tennessee last night, yeah, I saw it too. It's weird. Probably one of the strangest things I've ever seen. One of the largest things in the sky I've ever seen. That it got my attention real quick. And if you see any stories on that, please post them in the comments below or put them in a community post. You can now post in the post page too, I believe. I think you can. You can start a thread. So post it there. I would like to see, because holy crap. This was, we've had meteor showers before. This was huge. So I want to see if anybody else, has video or sees anything else while this is going on, because that was very interesting. It was very interesting. It looked like it was just going to crash down and kaboom. Then it burned up at the last. It didn't have much to go before the lights went out. It was a greeny orange coming off of it. Never seen one that color. Never seen one that large. Seen a lot in the sky, but I've never seen something like that. So very interesting evening. It would be the one night I would get out to go and nuisance hunt and do something. I would see something that was just weird. The way it rolls with me. Y'all witnessed the house and I think a lot of that we witnessed on that live last week was the electromagnetic solar flare crap going on. It was just strange, but I'm glad we caught on live anyway. I had a nap after that. I had a little prayer meeting in the house, but then I went and had a nap because I needed a nap. Well, we got a history lesson going on in the chat. Yeah, it was you, Sally, that said that, right? Yeah, it was you. That I was telling you about the pond siphon. Ooh, I may have to go look at that. Thank you. So my house was like alive on its own, just like weird things. And it was just like, why did that turn on? Why did that turn on? Why did that turn? And like I wasn't scared. It was annoying, but I needed a nap. I was not well those days, and I needed a nap. So I just went to the house, had a little prayer meeting, and then I said, I'm taking a nap. Peace out. That was really unhealthy during the most intense days of that, and I knew that's probably what it was. Well, we've had basically a friend festival in the live chat. So if anybody's got to link up, you know, you can do it on the post page or look at this live when it loads back and put it in the comments underneath, because it should load in the next few minutes and you should be able to comment like on a normal video. So if you had something going on, continue it over there. Just be careful what you write. Not for it hurting my YouTube, just I don't want them to ping y'all and y'all not be able to communicate. So if you need to link up with people and then talk elsewhere, feel free to put it in the comments. Yeah, I believe I do have that sensitivity, and I think that's why I probably have had my migraines for my entire life since I was like 8, and why they cycle the way they do. I think it lines up with a lot of that, my sensitivity, and I have a huge sensitivity. I can't talk to sensitivity to the barometric pressure ridge lines that come through with weather systems as well. So when we had a little one move through last night, my knees hurt me on. Like every surgery, I felt so completely last night. And I was just like, oh my gosh, my knees are killing me. But I made it through. So, yeah, like my house shuts down at night. And I don't keep a lot on. Like, if I'm not actively using it, it's just not on. And we have a small home. It's, but I'm super sensitive. Like my jaw kept popping out of socket last week. I was a klutz last week. I was not feeling well. It was just a bad week. I was just swelling in weird quadrants, and of course, this disorder does that too. But when something kicks that disorder off, I'm putting all the things together and realizing that's probably what it is. Probably what I'm super sensitive to since I did get hurt that bad when that boy threw the axe at me. And this disorder makes me super, super, super sensitive now. And as it's presented and it ages with me and gets worse, I get more sensitive. So I am a walking barometer for the weird. But at least I'm not boring. Are you grilling out? It's got to be. Well, it's still pretty warm down here. It was like 70 down here, which is so weird. But I know there's like a cut through coming, and there's been a lot of colder weather in the Northeast. I just don't know this winter. I don't have the fear going into this winter that I did last winter. I think the issues we're going to see are going to be man made this year as opposed to like a lot of the bad weather we had last year. I think we'll have more social issues this year, but we'll see. I don't know. It could change its mind. Yeah, we learned with rainfall that it amps up. And that's why a lot of people have dopamine releases when it begins to rain. And that's why we have a lot of heavy emotions related to rain, I guess. And it makes sense when I go back and review it. Because rainfall, what it disperses, what was it, the ions or something in a way that it affects us where our body does like a dopamine dump. And so a lot of people have a lot of emotional recognition on rainy days. And probably just because it's affecting your chemistry balance. I have got the sap got back and then it got warm again. So as soon as the sap drops again, I've got some stuff that I've got to cut um, to keep them in certain parameters for next year. So, and I've got one of those little tiny chainsaws that zizz, 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 zizz. And, because I can't handle a Husqvarna anymore because, I ain't got two good legs. So I sit in my little roller chair and I go zig, 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 zig. And I cut with my little tiny chainsaw. And I'm like, wow, what I have become. But, it's life. It happens, I'm a grandma. And I have the cutest grandbabies. They're mean too. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that. I don't think I'm full of nanotech as much as I lived in an area where it wasn't heavily used and deployed, and then when it was probably at the wrong time in my life and it affected me in a specific way, and then I got a very critical injury that messed up the system that balances that out normally for people, and so I'm just hypersensitive because my central nervous system is foobarred. It's a technical term. You know, the green taters are poison too, but we just cut them out. Living on the edge, y'all. Green taters are poisonous though. Did you know that? You're not supposed to eat them. We just cut them off until they're not green. We just cut that part off because normally you get a little bit left. It's not bad. You know, you have to get away from the green. But some people are freaking scared of green taters, and I'm like, but I'm living on the edge. I'm out of taters right now. I got to go get more. I know. I've always cut out the green, and they're like, it's poisonous. Don't eat it. And I'm like, y'all are just way too serious about this. It grows in the ground with cow poop and horse crap that we put on it and chicken shit. I'm gonna cut the green off and eat it. Did you know there's been a huge rise in botulism in the western side of the area in Texas? And they've been like 24 babies hospitalized. None of them passed away, thank God. Huge botulism outbreak in the U.S., mostly the western side. And they're trying to figure out what happened. That one's interesting. I hate to peel a tater. I mean, I will. I hate to peel a tater because peeled. So I'd like to know how many taters I've peeled in my life. I'd like to know how many times I have washed the silverware in my silverware drawer. Y'all ever get like that? Like, I want to know. Because it's got to be some just astronomical number that would make me be like Rain Man and walk around watching Jeopardy for a week going, it would put me into some kind of psychosis to know that I've spent that much of my life doing something so mundane. It would harm me just momentarily. But I want to know. Because I'm weird. But yeah, but everybody's like, don't eat the green taters. And I'm like, really? We just cut them off. Yeah, basically, we look at it as sometimes they'll turn green. Sometimes we'll get sunburnt and turn a funny color. And then they just, it's just not good. We just know it doesn't taste good and you just don't eat it. But apparently now everybody's like, on the green potatoes are toxic. And I'm like, wow. We've become very sensitive about things, haven't we? And, like the lady that grew a cucumber and so she was a green witch. And I'm like, no, honey, you grew a cucumber. It's okay. And people just, I don't know. It's like I want to watch crochet channels and I want to find good crochet channels that are just common sense people. I have a hard time finding common sense people to crochet because crochet has been turned into a loony bin factory. And it's like directly related apparently somehow to like people that are so ideologically impaired. And so, like, I'll start to watch a channel and be like, I really want to see what they're crocheting because they found an awesome pattern. They have great technique. And they'll be like, but don't buy your yarn at Hobby Lobby. If I find out you buy your yarn at Hobby Lobby, I'm going to cancel you. And then I'm like, I got nowhere else to buy yarn and I have to drive an hour to buy it there. So why are you mad at me? I'm kind of... It's the only place I can get it because I can't order enough at once to justify paying a huge shipping charge. So why do you freaking care where I buy my yarn? Because really, there's only about like 3 places that actually produce it. So they're all making the same money, right? But then I would watch this one girl, and I really do like her content, but I can't stand her, but I like the way she crochets and stuff she makes. But it's really hard to stomach her sometimes. And I don't know, it's just really strange because she was like, well, I got my new order of merch in and I've noticed there's one change and I felt really bad that there was one change, but before you notice it and get mad at me, I'm going to lower the price because I don't want to be canceled. If I went through life worrying so much about other people going to try to diminish me in some kind of imaginary way, I'd go insane. What does cancel mean? You don't exist on an imaginary plane where we don't really have a real society? Gee, that's harsh. But I mean, you still get up every morning and still have to wipe your butt and cook your food and, take care of yourself and go through your routine. So you're still in existence, right? So it just hit me wrong. And I was just like, you're so scared because you found an income stream that you enjoy, that you can be put in a box and in a fence so quickly for details that don't even matter. Because, and I just wanted to write a message and go, where you buy your bags and have them manufactured, you're under contract and they can make certain changes. And we understand that as a consumer base. And I'm not going to fuss about a one seam difference in a bag and a $5. It doesn't matter to me. Bless your heart, worry about better things. Don't waste your time, you know. But it's like, I don't know. Maybe just people have more time to worry about things like that. That I just don't get it. I just don't get it. If somebody said we're going to cancel you, I'd be like, it's not going to change my life. Because, I mean, it's not like I have a ton of people to talk to anyway. You know, probably still going to make videos, may not get many views, but I mean, it's not going to augment my world. And it's just like they want to do emotional harm so that you augment your own world. No, no. I don't get up every morning and worry about you. Listen, if you ever find that you're worrying about too many people, ask this question when you look at them and go, should I allow them to dictate my world? Look at that person and go, would I wipe their butt? If you say no, then you should not, be concerned with anything, because you're just not that close and they're not necessary in your life. Okay. Now, if you answer and say yes, and you say that to more than one or two people in your world, well, you're a better person than me. Okay. Move over Mother Teresa, who I don't think was a very nice person actually at all. But anyway, move over Mother Teresa. I hear Luna snoring all the way in here. Sabrina has those days where she's like, I can compost the entire video, and then there's days where it takes me a month to take the video apart and get it all. So when I get a day where I'm like, woohoo! Because normally I'm like researching for weeks. Like, I can send her a 16-minute voice message and literally say nothing. She can send me 35 seconds and I'm working for 3 hours. So, just saying. Really, Colin? Wow. Bet you she knows some secrets. I worked more on a behavior level with things. So, and I really think that growing up dealing with animals that you had to communicate with energetically and behaviorally, I think that really helped me a lot with understanding a lot of the behavior in people these days. Because you'll always tell yourself when you're in a herd. You cannot, you can one-on-one, you can keep up a facade, but when you got more than one person, you can't, you normally have a facade with each, if you're really a horrible person, you have a different facade for each person, and you can't play multiple roles at once. So I like to people watch in social settings. People probably think I'm very quiet. They're highly mistaken. I'm just taking it all in. I just really enjoy people watching. Did you hear that lady? Hear about that lady thought she was going to marry Elon Musk? She was sending somebody money who they said they were Elon Musk and they were going to marry her. Number one, if Elon Musk ever asked anybody saying they're Elon Musk ever asked me for money, listen, you screwed up right there. It's not legit. The man don't need my money. He's fixing to be a trillionaire. But this poor lady thought she was fixing to get married to Elon Musk, and they keep floating the story by me, and I just grab a line or two and then I'll let it go on. But apparently there's a big YouTube video about it too. Bless her heart, Lord love her. We all know what that means, right? Colin, they're supposed to, if when they make Deliverance the musical, That'd be a day of recognition, because that's when we know society has fully broken down. I got in trouble in college because the guy was asking me, he's like, the professor, he was like, there was a video with Gregory Peck. Well, he said there's a video, a movie, a very famous movie, filmed in your area, Miss. And it was a show back then. He goes, do you know what it was? And I was like, Deliverance. I was just being a butthole. Luna's here. I was just being a butthole. I said Deliverance. He said no. It had Gregory Peck in it. I don't remember which one it was, but it was a big deal. Gregory Peck was in my area. What are you doing? Well, make your mind up. I'm not reclining. I'm not gonna do it, Luna. You can't make me. You can't make me. No, you can't make me. I'm not reclining. Oh, Lord. Now I'm going to have to fight my dog. Okay, we're going to go outside and have our last play date for the day. She's been a good girl for the last few minutes and slept. Yeah, I'm not reclining. Do not smack me in the head. Don't do it. She's pushing with her hind legs, trying to push me backwards. I'm not reclining. Luna. Okay, well, if you didn't tune in for this, I'm sorry. But I'm going to take her outside and take her on a good last walk around while the sun's setting. Go down. Apparently it was a movie with Gregory Peck, and I forget which one it was, but it was a nice one. I got in trouble. Story of my life. Hey, listen, if they turn it into like a Broadway and they make a song about a boy having a pretty mouth and then pigs squeal in the background, we all know there's a breakdown. The world is done. Society's finished. Boop. And I'll end on that because Lord help us all. But at least I don't think I'm going to marry Elon Musk. I'm doing better than most. She's a turd. Okay, I'm taking Luna out. Thanks for sitting with me. I'm going to have to shut up and get some crap done. But I did get a possum out of it, so yay. Bye, guys. Hang on, Lou. I'll be there in just a minute. You hear her snorting? Lord.